Welcome, everyone. Hello. All right. I think we're still waiting on a few folks who have registered to join us. So I'm just going to kind of keep an eye on the waiting room. Thanks, everybody who's already here. Some of you know me, some of you don't. I'm Katie Miller. I am a divorce attorney, Smart Divorce Charlotte. And this is Julia Stage.
Hi, Julia Stage, family law litigation attorney at Essex Richards. So happy to be here.
Yes. All right. So we are currently set up in the Miles Mediation and Arbitration office in Charlotte, North Carolina. Love this place. Thank you for hosting us. But collectively, Julie and I are members, founding members of the Divorce Edit. The Divorce Edit is a safe, non-judgmental space. We are a collective of professional females who are here purely to support women going through divorce. It makes sense for us, we're divorce attorneys, but we have a whole host of ladies from other areas, other disciplines. We've got financial planners, real estate experts, therapists, coaches. But one thing that we share in common, although we're across all these different disciplines, is that we are here to support women. We want to make sure that you feel supported and that you feel less lonely through this process because this can be one of the most, I guess, like
Isolating.
isolating, that's a
Yeah.
great word, processes that you can go through. I've been through it myself. So before we jump in to the substance of today, the topic today is litigation versus divorce, like mediation, that
hmm
process. We don't fight in this. It's a versus, but it's a discussion. It's enlightening, hopefully giving you guys some information to help you understand what the differences are and to ultimately make a good decision about what you decide to do, what path is right for you. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about myself. And the lights went out.
Okay, we'll
Go
go
tell
get
the
them.
lights
Yep.
to come back on. So, as I mentioned, I'm Katie Miller. I am a North Carolina attorney, board certified family law specialist. Thanks, Julia.
Okay.
I'm also a certified family financial mediator. I'm divorced myself. I have two elementary age kiddos, and I have practiced family law in Charlotte exclusively for 19 years this year. I know I don't look that old, but
You
trust me,
don't.
because I focus on mediation as opposed to litigation. So I focus my practice purely on helping folks stay outside of court. That's my passion. That is my purpose. That's what I'm here for. Julia, on the other hand, has the stomach for and the skill set to take you to court if and when it's necessary. So Julia is going to bring the litigation lens to our discussion today so you can understand your options side by side. All right. So there's not one right path for every family. We know that. So today we just want to help you understand those processes. Julia, you want to tell our folks a little bit more about yourself?
Yes, like Katie, I have lived in Charlotte for over 20 years and I have been practicing family law exclusively for almost 15. I've only done family law litigation
Yeah.
since I started law school. And upon completion, that's just all I know. So although I am so hopeful that you or your friends will never see a courtroom, it's sometimes necessary, and we'll walk through when that process is necessary for you. But I do have two small children. I'm married. I live in South Charlotte. They're both in elementary school, boys. They're wild. Have two dogs. So I feel like I'm in the community and I understand what's going on as your normal day-to-day stressors. I don't understand what's going on in the stress of your life, but that's what we're hoping with our team that we're bringing you is that any person that you would need throughout the divorce process exclusive of your family and friends that of
Mhm.
course you need to lean on, but the professionals we would stick with the legal aspect and then you can reach out to them for other support as well.
Definitely. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about the divorce edit is that we've been doing this so long and so have the other professionals that if you started your journey and let's say that you start with your therapist, Maria Brady, and she's in the group and Maria says, you know what, I really feel like you might need to talk to a litigation attorney. Let me get you in touch with Julia. That's what we're here for. We're not here to sell you anything or to push anything, but it's just we've made these connections and these relationships, and we've really got a great amount of respect for the way that each of us does what we do.
Mhm.
And so it's great to be able to have that team of folks to rely on. So we're going to jump in now. All right. So level setting, what are the two paths? We've got litigation, we've got mediation. What does mediation actually look like? So it's my job. I do it every day and I love it. There are a couple of different ways that I see mediation in my practice. First is what I would call attorney-led mediation, right? So I've got two folks who come to me as a mediator. I don't represent either one of them. I am not their biased attorney. I cannot give them legal advice. But what they get when they come to me as a mediator is these 19 years of experience of I've seen really great settlements, I've seen not so great settlements. And I have the experience to be able to say, here is where we need to start in the process for you. So typically what I do when I'm meeting folks in that setting where it's just, two partners coming to me and saying, we want you to help us mediate our case. I need to know what the issues are. So let's start with, do you have kids? Are you married? Sometimes it's just folks who are splitting up who weren't married, and only things that we have to deal with are the child custody and the child support. But if you were married, then we've got issues of property division and spousal support as well. So I like to start the conversation with, what do you guys already agree upon? Because sometimes there are things that I don't need to help you with. You guys have already figured it out. That's great. So if you've already figured out what the custody schedule is going to look like, let's get that documented and make sure that that's not something I'm going to muck up with our discussions. But it's more so the financial piece that you need my assistance getting you guys to a resolution on. And so in that situation, I typically am going to start with folks saying, all right, we need to gather documents. What information, Julia, do you feel like you need from your partner to be able to come to the table and have informed, educated discussions and decisions? And vice versa, right? Do we need bank statements? Do we need tax returns? Do we need pay stubs? And in that process, we can tell if there's going to be the mutual trust, right? I trust that she is going to give me all the pay stubs that he needs to see so that he feels comfortable making decisions about, the spousal support, the child support, what have you. And that's kind of the point in my job where if I get to the point where the trust is broken down between the two folks, that I'm going to say, if you guys don't believe that you're getting all the information, this process might not work for you. If you feel like you need somebody or a different process that can force that person, or that you can go to a third source like the bank or that person's employer to get documents directly from them, that's when I'm saying, let's go talk to Julia. Julia's going to have some different skills in litigation that kind of get you to that point. So if we have open discussion though, and we have the trust and the folks saying, yes, I'm willing to give you these documents and let's set dates to exchange these documents, then this process can work for you. The mediation process can absolutely work for you. Yeah.
So, and that's exactly where I come in, is when there is a lack of trust. So, for example, there are very large range of people that I represent, meaning someone did one action in the recent past that made them not trust the other person, or it can be a series of events that lead to the non-trust. So this way, if for some reason you were to have the power of subpoenas after filing litigation to go to the bank directly, et cetera, you would be able to see it with your own eyes, and hopefully that we can still settle after we get that information. But it just is just making sure that you know that you've done your homework, your due diligence, and you know that this is a good deal based on your own information, and if you can't trust the other side.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a big part of it as well. When we get to the point of litigation, I think what's really interesting specifically about the North Carolina courts in Mecklenburg County, where Julie and I practice for the most part.
Yes.
Yeah, we've got some surrounding counties, but you're required to go to mediation for all of the issues in some way, shape, or form, even after litigation is started. So when Julia jumps in and you've filed a lawsuit and you've subpoenaed these documents, and now you feel like you've got those documents in a place where you understand things a little bit better and you feel comfortable that you can make informed decisions. And Julia feels the same way. She feels like, okay, I know what this other person earns. I know what the marital estate looks like. And here's how I think that we should move forward with this. one of the things that the court's going to require you to do is to attend mediation before you can get in front of a judge for a full substantive hearing. So that's where I can come back into the mix as either a court-appointed mediator or as a neutral that the attorneys, the litigation attorneys, select to come in and act as a mediator in that facility, right? Um, that's a situation where it's not like in the movies. I think that what is it, the wedding crashers,
Yeah, where
right?
they're
Where
sitting over across from
they
the
cross the
table.
table,
Yeah,
like give me
you
some
know.
points or
Yeah,
whatever. Okay, no,
right.
it's not like that at
Mhm.
all. Typically what we would do is we would start in one conference room together. And I, as a mediator, just explain the lay of the land, the ground rules, how the day will work, and we start separating into separate rooms. So you're going to be in your room with your attorney. He's going to be in his room with his attorney. And I get to bounce back and forth between the two rooms with offers, settlement offers, counter offers, et cetera, and offering some insight too. When your attorneys say, Katie, what have you seen in these situations before? Do you have any other ideas for how we might be able to, get alimony when he feels like he doesn't have the ability to pay on a monthly basis? We can get creative. We can figure out some solutions. And in that situation, you've got three legal brains all together, working towards the common goal of getting it settled. Julia's there representing her client, wanting to get the best deal for them. So can we talk a little bit about how you approach a mediation session with those ideas in mind? You've got me as your mediator, you've got an opposing party in the other room, you've got your client in your room. How are you preparing for and coming to that mediation?
So I always show up at mediation with an offer in hand. Time is money. I don't want to waste anyone's time, and I want everyone to understand how really the end goal for all of us, right?
Yeah.
At mediation, we would definitely explain how we got to this point so that the mediator would know everyone's feelings and thoughts about different issues that are taking place. But like Katie said, you have to go to mediation before you can get to trial.
Yeah.
So that is the best use of your time to find out information that you would like to know before trial.
Mhm.
Hopefully you settle, but if not, it's still a great use of time no matter what to bounce ideas off of Katie because she's really smart. Shouldn't have the advocate hat on in that situation. So
Yeah, I'm
she
a
can
neutral.
say neutrally, I've heard everything from both sides, and here's what I think is going to happen. And sometimes that's nice to hear. It's either
Yeah,
that you're right or you're wrong,
right,
right? But at least you kind of cut to the chase. And
right.
that's what I like about it.
I do love being in that capacity to be able to say to you as the
Right.
attorney,
Mm-hmm.
hey, listen, Julia, here's where I feel like your case strengths are, and here's where I feel like your case weaknesses are. And and candidly, I've talked to the other side, and they've got some strengths and weaknesses too, and I can share some of those things as well. So I think that it helps the attorneys who have had these hats on the whole time of my client's right, I'm going to get them the best deal. Like, this is, we're going to win, win, win. It helps the attorneys to kind of level set and say, okay, I didn't realize that this was exactly what was happening in the other room. So now I have a better understanding. So, hey, client, maybe here's a different twist on what we need to be asking for or seeking in a solution.
Exactly.
Yeah, love that. So typically when we have those types of mediation where Julia's in one room with her client, we've got another attorney and another client in another room, and I'm the mediator, we'll block off a full day on the calendar, and hopefully it doesn't take the full day, but oftentimes it does just because there's a lot to work through. Kind of think about the fact that, you've been married for 5, 10, 15, 50 years, whatever it is. And we're looking at an 8-hour block of time to resolve all those issues. It's not a lot of time, but we get it done. So in that situation, one day usually can get it done. Sometimes we'll go into 2 or 3 days if we've got some more complex issues to deal with. But on the original discussion of if you come to me just as the mediator, you can plan on having several sessions with me. So the initial session is going to be the discovery. I call that kind of the discovery meeting of what are the issues and what do we need to come back and have substantive conversations. So then the next meeting, we will have had all the documents exchanged and we'll start digging in from there and see how many points we can get agreements on. I usually like to keep those sessions at 2 to 3 hours just because after that period of time, you can kind of lose the momentum and just start feeling like it's exhausting, it really is. But, come back in a couple of days, come back in a couple of weeks, take a breath, breathe with that, live with that, see what that feels like. Sometimes I say to folks, let's give this custody schedule 6 weeks, right? And come back in 6 weeks and let's talk about how that's affected the kids. Is that working for you guys? Are the kids still doing well in school? Just making sure that everything that we thought in this conference room was a good idea really has the real world impact that we hoped that it would. So kind of the two different mediation sessions that I usually look at are either those tiny little ones if you don't have two attorneys involved, or that 1 day session. Um, Once I say to you, hey, listen, Julia, I need you to get involved. I need you to take over with these folks. Can you talk with us about what it means when a lawsuit actually gets filed?
So once you file a lawsuit, you have a court case number, which the most important thing is what we just talked about is for the discovery process. You can start asking for documents directly from the party, or you can issue subpoenas yourself. Most of the time we're issuing subpoenas when you've been able to not be successful through Katie. And so we're just trying to just get to the information as fast as possible.
Yeah.
The other thing that I like about lawsuits is that it triggers a timeline. It's slow, albeit, but at least we have an end date.
Yeah.
I meet so many people that have said we've been separated or we've been trying to separate for years, meaning more than one. But without a lawsuit, there's no end date.
Right.
And so I know for a lot of people, we just need to move on. We need to get to that next chapter, and
Get some movement.
we can't get to the next chapter until we finish the one that we're in. So I know a lot of my clients have been pleased with having the need to push along. So for example, once a lawsuit's filed, you have to attend mediation. There is some pressure while you're at court-ordered mediation to settle, because you do have some control on the outcome at mediation. If you go to trial, it's just what the judge says.
Right.
And if you feel that you are completely right and your facts are backing you up and a very educated mediator like Katie is agreeing with us, maybe trial is necessary. But the goal is that you always keep control of not only your case, but your own life. And so that's what we try to do in staying out of court.
Yeah, definitely. When you get to the point of you've filed a lawsuit, they've ordered mediation, what can you expect in terms of, are you going to court? So let's say you don't settle at mediation. Is there 1 day where you're going in and you're getting your trial and that's it?
Unfortunately, that is not usually the case. Usually what happens is that there is a pressing issue, meaning a party does not have access to funds, children are being withheld, children are being withheld for a reason. And so there is that emergency push to get in front of a judge. But if there is no emergency, you guys just can't agree. The goal is for at least our courthouse in North Carolina is to get you in and out within 365 days of filing. I know that seems absurd that you've already tried and then you had to file a lawsuit and you have to wait another year. But again, at least that gives you that realistic perspective of when it'll all be over. In the meantime, you would have temporary hearings from the date of file till your permanent trial. The goal is when the courthouse separates those issues piecemeal, it is time consuming, it can be expensive and stressful, but at least you're being heard instead of waiting for that 2 days in 2 years, right? So what we're trying to do is whatever the most pressing issue is, you would rise to the level of getting a hearing sooner.
Yeah. So I want to do some myth busting.
I love myth busting.
Okay. All right. So myth number one, mediation only works if we get along. What do you think?
Not true.
Okay.
Bust it.
Bust it.
Let's
Okay.
bust it, Katie.
So there are lots of tools that mediators have in their toolbox for high conflict mediations where we've got some folks that really, I mean, not even like you're not in the same room, but like can't be in the same room together to even listen to the initial speech of here's what all the rules of mediation are. And that is just the relationship dynamic that comes to me from, however you guys come to the table. So we have a lot of tools that we can use there. And Julia, is it true that many cases, would you say the majority of your cases that you file a lawsuit and that you have some sort of hearing on, some sort of litigation, that they still settle outside of court?
I do think that you can settle out of court after a hearing, especially a temporary hearing, because I do think that the judge would probably agree with one of the two people of what they were asking for, and it allows the person that, if you want to call it lost, didn't get what they want, to understand probably what's on their horizon for the permanent trial, and maybe it's better to just cut our losses and move on.
Yeah, I did see that a lot in litigation before I stopped litigating. It was, people want their day in court. And then once you get there and you have your day in court, it's not something where anybody ever walks out of the courtroom saying, "Oh, I won, everything's great, everything's perfect now." It's very often both folks come in out saying, Well, that sucked and that was really expensive, but at least we have a decision, right? At least the judge told us what the end result is.
I think that we're so lucky to be in Charlotte with so many educated, like-minded people that people see value in
Hmm.
the end and moving on, which is what I've been talking about this afternoon before that now. And so at mediation, if you guys don't agree, right, and if you don't get along, you still understand that probably going to trial isn't good for either of you.
Yeah,
So that's why the mediation process still works if
yeah,
you don't agree on every single issue, because you agree that it's better for everyone to resolve.
yeah, definitely, definitely. Okay, so let's do a couple of real life scenarios. I want to make sure that we're being respectful of everybody's time and ending right at 12:30. So we got about 7-ish minutes left.
Okay.
So let's talk about scenario A, where we've got two working parents, both want fairness. Fairness, the word fair, we kind of call that like a four-letter F
Mhm.
word in our in our world. Everybody wants it to be fair and they don't want war. What does that look like if somebody comes to you wanting two working parents, you've got one of them coming to you, they want it to be fair, they don't want war. How do you start that process?
Well, any court, no matter if it's domestic litigation or whatever type of litigation involved in, is the goal is equity. So if you have two parents that, for lack of a better word, are equal,
Hmm.
right? So there's not a primary parent from an outside position looking in, then you need to split custody 50-50, whether that's week on, week off, 2-2-3 or 5, whichever way we talk about it. But it's, 2 days with one parent, 2 days with the next, then alternating weekends.
Hmm.
That's a sharing of time. That's what you can expect in Charlotte, North Carolina, unless there's some sort of issue that sways you either way. Again, assets, whatever the amount of the asset is, you divide it by two.
Hmm.
The issues that we come up with sometimes is unfortunately whether or not the asset is marital, right? So
Hmm.
that's a harder conversation for a different day. But if everyone understands which accounts are marital, you divide those by two. When it comes to income, it's not exactly an equitable argument, but the goal is that everyone splits the amount of money that they are making during the marriage. Unfortunately, it costs more to have two households. So
Yep.
sometimes it makes sense that one person would not receive the same amount, whether it's alimony or child support, as the others take home moving forward. But
Hmm.
that's kind of like the nitty gritty that we can get into. But on average, if you guys can all agree that dividing by two, whether it's time with your children, time with your dogs, dividing up
Yeah.
assets, then really it is just an equity argument of 50-50.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I want to talk with the last couple minutes that we have and open it up for questions if we can.
Mm-hmm.
Typical mediation timeline, if it is the mediation where you've come to me as the mediator, you don't have attorneys involved, I would say generally a few months would be kind of a typical timeline for that. And I do those at an hourly rate as opposed to a flat fee because I want to make sure that you're only paying for the time that I'm actually spending on your case. And I think that's kind of similar to the way that you approach the way that your fees are handled as well.
Is yes, we always build hourly. I think that some firms in town do flat fees, but I've just never seen anyone come out ahead on those. And
Hmm.
so, meaning the client.
Yeah.
So I think it's best for everyone if we're able to really just charge for our time that we actually spend on each issue.
Yeah. Do you ever, here's a question for you. Do you ever tell somebody at a consultation, here's exactly how much your whole case is going to cost?
Never,
I don't either.
never.
You can't.
Never.
It's
It's
impossible.
always wrong too. If you were to
Even if
say,
you
I'm
guess.
not a betting woman, but if I was, and she were to come to me and say, how much do you think this case is going to cost? I'm always wrong the opposite way. If I think this is going to be litigated to death and we're going to be in court every day for a year, we settle the next day. So I'm not trying to forecast for you either way. I don't want to stress you out, but I also want to be realistic. And so I think it's helpful to hear based on your case, based on what you told me, this is what I think we might be
Hmm.
experiencing. But there are a lot of caveats into that, meaning I haven't even talked to the opposing counsel, opposing side, etc.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So I think we've done a pretty great job patting ourselves on the back of explaining mediation versus
Right.
litigation. And ultimately, question is how do you choose what path is right for you?
Hmm.
So I have three questions that I tell folks to ask yourself. Number one, do I want control through the mediation process? Do I want to be able to have a say in the outcome? Or do I want a judge to tell me? That's question number one. Question number two, do I need speed? Do I need to get this done quickly? Mediation is at our own pace. We can do it as quickly or as slowly as we need to. Or do you want leverage? Do you want to say, I'm filing a lawsuit so that I can subpoena these documents and figure out where all your money is? Is that what you need? Some people need that. And in some cases, that absolutely makes sense.
Hmm.
And then number three, I think is probably most important for the big picture, long term, like big life stuff. What relationship must survive this process? Is it your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your children, whether they're young or adults, right? Because it affects adult children just as much as it affects small children like we have. Do I need to make sure that a co-parenting relationship with the other party survives this? What relationships have to survive this process? Okay, so those are the three big questions. Talk to me about how litigation absolutely gives you an end to the journey.
Yes, you are definitely finished at some point whenever you file a lawsuit. But I will piggyback off of Katie. Unfortunately, some relationships can be ruined. And
Mhm.
so that's something that a lot of my clients take into effect is if we get closer to trial date, if settlement offers are being offered that are relatively reasonable, most of the time my clients consider taking them because they don't want to risk ruining that relationship. Even if the twins are 18,
Yeah.
they're still going to go to college, hopefully, marriage, babies. You never know what the next step is, and you want to be able to be in the same room with that person.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Okay, so quick call to action for us here. And I've got one question that I see in the chat. If you go through mediation and agree on all fronts, love that, love it. How does the divorce actually finalize slash what are the next steps? Okay, so if you go to mediation, I'm going to type up as much of the document as I can to be the settlement document. And I have to ethically, according to the state bar, I have to tell you that I can't draft the settlement document. I have to say, take it to an attorney to review it, get your own independent counsel to make sure that everything looks good before you can actually sign the document. So once you get that final signed document in place, you're done for that. The actual divorce itself, so like legal ending of the marriage, that's a 365-day waiting period after separation. File some paperwork with the court. It's very straightforward now. We have e-filing in Mecklenburg, actually in all 100 counties in North Carolina. So it's very straightforward to get that piece of it done. So thank you for that question. And then we've got what are the most significant differences when filing for divorce in North Carolina versus other states? I'm not licensed anywhere else, but I know for sure. Are you? Are you
No,
something?
I'm
No.
not. Only thing I was going to say was that you have to wait a year in
Yeah,
North Carolina. We're in the Bible Belt. So
exactly.
a lot of times people are moving to California, New York, you name it, and they can
Yes.
get divorced faster, most likely 6 months. So
Yes.
sometimes people wait to file when they are going to be in their new state.
Yes.
But that's really it.
It's
And
those are
so
the kind of
those
the
are
biggies.
the
Yeah.
biggies. Yep.
So I am going to invite everybody, if you want more information about either the divorce edit or if you want to connect with Julia or I directly, we've got a couple of ways for you to do that. You can go email us, support@divorceedit.com. You can go to our website, divorceedit.com, and click on my picture or Julia's name, and it will send an email directly to us. If you want to get connected with any of the other professionals in the divorce edit, everybody is also listed on our website as well, or you could email that support@divorceedit.com to get connected with those folks. And we've got something coming up in March.
And March the 10th at noon again. We talked about the lovely ladies that we work with, and you're going to be learning about the voice that makes everything harder, quieting your inner critic during divorce from Marissa, who is brilliant.
Yes.
So I will be there, and I hope you guys will be there too.
Love it. Thank you guys all so much for joining us today. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Me
I feel
too.
like,
It's nice to hear from a different perspective
yes,
sometimes.
for sure. All right. So reach out if you have any other questions, and otherwise, hope everybody enjoys the rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thanks.